Welcome to another edition of the Resilient Living Podcast, a show dedicated to improving quality of life for both people and planet through liberation and independence, moving from surviving to thriving and living life on your own terms. All right, coming live from my F-350 pickup truck on my work commute. That's the background noise, and I'm taking you guys on the journey with me today on what I think we should do for the things to do for the coming harder times. So this one I don't have much notes because I'm driving. But I think that this is something big that can help a lot of people. I just kind of want to run through today of what is it that we can do. I mean, this is the second week of November of 2021, and there's just so much madness and mayhem going on, and it's hard to figure out what to do. I mean, if you're rich, we have rich people investing in everything. You see, I've taken the time to understand what's going on with money because I think that's what a lot of the hardship is going on. It's a continual education of myself to understand what is going on, what's causing all this weird stuff happening in the world. And what's happening is that people are saying, the very wealthy, is cash is trash. Now, I've been trying to wrap my head around this for a very long time. So what happens is we have inflation and depreciation of your money and things like that. So the wealthy, people who do have a lot of money, need to get rid of it. Otherwise, they're going to pay taxes on it. Rich people actually keep borrowing money. Why? Because you don't pay taxes on borrowed money. It's not an income. The moment somebody pays me or I pay you as an employee, right, or an employer, I got to pay taxes. You got to pay. Everybody's got to pay taxes. The rich people notice, well, heck, if I keep borrowing and I keep living off that borrowed money, I keep investing it, I never really have to pay taxes. So in a nutshell, I know that's kind of oversimplifying, that's how people don't pay taxes. So what's happening is they're having to go buy up all these houses. Real estate is one of the biggest ones right now. Anything that they can produce into assets and liabilities, right? Assets are things for the rich, like buying a house that's going to keep, and not buying it outright, getting a loan for that house. So therefore, they get the money, and they're from renters and things like that, and this is something that keeps paying them back, but they don't get. It's hard to explain to get back how they don't exactly pay the taxes. I'm still learning 100% about it, but they're having to invest. They're buying up things and making it impossible for people like you and I, the middle class or the upper class, to go and buy things because they're paying. They're getting loans. They're buying cash out. They're over. Getting more money than the asking price. But now we have stuff with our food, right? This all involves money. With food's going up, everything's going up. A lot of uncertainty with the jab. I guess it's dangerous to say the vaccinations or something, like whether you do, you don't. Are we going to have another pandemic? Are things going to open up? What can we do about this? Is what I look at. We know what the problems are. We want to be a more solution-based mindset. So things that we can do that I look at as middle class, even some of the poor, if you guys have listened to the show and started to organize your life financially and for your time and all those kind of things so that you can work on these ideas and forms for your life. I think that one of the things I've done is invested in a lot of things before inflation started happening. I saw what was happening and I said, wow. So if you have the money, you can start investing in such things that you would look at that are small investment, small ROI. So if we take education, for instance, you can go and buy yourself a book, which I've done, and happily, I have to say, we're going to have a person by the name of Joseph Lofthouse on the channel, and he is a landrace breeder, landrace of seeds. So I purchased his book. I took the time off of from watching TV and things like that to actually educating myself and found out, wow, this is a powerful, when I explain this landrace to you, this is like a philosophy for life. What happens with landrace is that what Joseph Lofthouse has been doing, and he'll explain it in full detail, is he's invested his time getting seeds and breeding them for his biome, for his environment, that are resistant to pests and animals and diseases and things like that. So now what happens is Joseph, by selecting hundreds, if not thousands of different seeds into his garden and into his life, has this bank account of food, of seeds. Well, they're not necessarily food right now, but they're seeds that he can grow that aren't going to die, right? And this improves life dramatically when we look at this on so many levels. What are things that we can do to landrace the things around us to make them impervious to diseases and things affect, like if there's another pandemic and things like that. So, and I'm not just talking plants here. Again, I want you to look at this philosophy for money, for spirituality, happiness, all of these different things. What happens is, whether the pandemic comes or not, do you think that Joseph Lofthouse's seeds are going to really be worried about what's going on? Are they affected? No, they're not. And in fact, when we look at, say, a tomato that like Joseph Lofthouse has, he takes this one tomato seed and he plants it, and he saves maybe 5 tomatoes off that bush, but eats the rest. He gets sustenance, right? Maybe he has so much tomatoes that they're so beautiful and healthy looking, he can sell at a farmer's market. He can turn this into a profit. He can trade. He can barter with it, right? In a pandemic, with inflation and money and all of these crazy elections and disputes and all these things, one thing that's indisputable is that people are going to get hungry, and a lot of people want to eat good stuff, good tasting stuff. I think even a lot of rich people who are millionaires and billionaires would look and say, why would I eat this store-bought tomato from the local grocery store where it was picked green and tastes like water? It doesn't really have flavor. Whereas this Joseph Lofthouse character's got these tomatoes that are just blooming, right? So Joseph has this wonderful tasting food that's diversified many avenues of his life, right? I don't know anything about his life right now. I'm just saying for gardening, for land raising. So these are things that I look at. What can we do in life right now with these hard times that are coming? And a lot of people are saying the hard times are going to get even worse. We can start to develop things into our lives like this. Now, as I said, I educated myself when this whole story opened up. I would have never known about land-raised seeds and how to garden more effortlessly and have more success at my gardening and be able to turn that into maybe a YouTube channel and things like that, to actually start creating payment for myself if I didn't educate myself. Now, Joseph Lofthouse's book, I can't remember, and many others that I purchased were maybe like $10, I think. Maybe even if it was $20. I'll tell you another one I purchased was how to design a worm farm for worm castings, from small scale at home to huge commercial, the complete guide. That book was like $60, $70, I think. But do you realize $60, $70 of what could happen with just from me investing that, taking my time to read it, study it thoroughly, take notes, spend that money? It now offers me, if I lose my job, which I own my own business, I would, but if I lost my business or something like that, it adds in a whole other avenue of my life to where, again, worms don't care about a pandemic or the elections or all the fighting that's going on and arguments of things. They just keep producing. And in fact, they're like workers. It's an investment you do once. And as we say in permaculture, it's stacking functions. And they're working for me. So let's just say I get a 4x8 foot sheet of plywood and I make a little 1 foot bed high, and I dump a bunch of soil and stuff in there and some food scraps, and I put my worms. I buy about a pound of worms. Well, by next year, I've probably got about 2 pounds of worms. I also have a whole bunch of worm castings for those lovely seeds that I learned how to land raise from that book that I bought for $10 to make them flourish even better. In fact, I have so much worm castings now that I can't use them all, that I could start selling these worm castings or bartering with these things. And when I barter for my worm castings, these people start to ask me questions of like, well, what are you growing? Tomatoes. Oh, I'd sure love to have a tomato. Well, how about we barter for tomatoes as well, right? And the whole entire time, I really like the worm castings because really you're not doing anything. Just make sure you keep them moist. But instead of turning a compost pile, the worms are converting all of my waste that I have. We're stacking functions, right? All the tomatoes and everything I eat, the ones I don't, that go bad, I put them for the worms. The worms turn these things, eat them, and do all the work for me. I do almost absolutely nothing. Whether I'm awake or asleep, there's a pandemic, anything going on, the worms keep going as long as they have food. So you see how this opens up an avenue, and then they just keep multiplying. Now I can actually sell worm castings, and I could sell worms. I could sell them to people fishing. So the thing I want to look at is what are the things that we can do? And a lot of the things that I just shared with you are a lot about money, about investing, but very small investments. There's YouTube. It's one of the best times to ever be alive. I just learned, for instance, on my truck that I'm driving right now, forgive me for the background noise, but I just learned from YouTube how to exchange a power steering pump. My power steering pump got clogged. It started leaking everywhere. I was stuck. Because of my good friend YouTube, I have a lot of things I don't like about YouTube as well, but because I was able to watch a bunch of videos, I was able to repair my truck myself. Saved me a couple $100, gained another skill. I know if somebody else had a power steering pump that was out, I can look at it and say, I think I can fix that for you. And I keep doing these things perpetually, over and over again, preparing myself, educating myself, and stop focusing on the things that I don't have control over, and start focusing on the things that I do, and start focusing these things more on a sustainability, a more resilient lifestyle design, where I'm designing my life by getting all of these educating myself in all of these life skills. So what starts to happen now is as all these things throughout time compile, my life begins to become a lot easier, whether there's a pandemic or no pandemic. I have these skills and they're going nowhere. They come with me. There's nobody that can take these things away from me. So I think that if we start focusing on the positives instead of the negatives of all of these things going on in our lifetime right now, the better off we'll be. So what could we do in the coming harder times is to start. I think we kind of need to go backwards, guys. I think what I'm starting to feel in my life is that maybe, I live tiny. For those of you who don't know, just tuning in, I live tiny and I live a stationary RV style, meaning I don't travel around, but I live very simple. It's minimalist-ish. It's essentialist-ish. I just buy only what I need. I utilize other people's property to grow a lot of my food on, right? I've got all of these different things going on where I utilize. But one of the things I look at is that life to me seems, as things progress, a lot of people buying up houses as we opened up with the show. That's where money, inflation, and a lot of things are driven, where, pretty much it's going to be a renter's nation is what they say. Is that probably in the next 10 years, as everybody, the wealthy investors keep buying up property, we're all going to be renters. But what happens even if we have to rent, or better than that, what if we end up buying ourselves a piece of land someplace? What if we get out of just right outside of the big cities and start to become producers of our lives instead of consumers? So I think these hard times are hard because we're sitting ducks. We're susceptible to what is given to us. Meaning, you would say, no, I'm not. I could buy whatever I want at the grocery store. But what do we have going on right now, or threatening to be happening? That there won't be food on the shelves, or there'll be less food on the shelves. I don't buy into any of it. I don't know what's going on. At this point, some of it sounds like conspiracy theories, but then some of it happens and I'm like, wow, that actually happened. But the stress of having to live that way, to eat unhealthy foods. A lot of the foods that we get at the grocery store come from different parts of the world. Right? We can't grow them in this environment year round. So we're susceptible to things, whether they got pesticides on them or poisons. We have no clue. They're supposed to be certified organic, and there's a lot of problems with that. That's why a lot of people, if you're not aware of, say better than organic. So we are free to go spend our money, but we're only allowed on what we're able to spend our money on, if that makes sense, if I'm articulating that correctly. I, on the other hand, look at and am inspired by this whole lifestyle design, all this crap going on, is maybe the tortilla factor, I'll call it that. Last year, in July, I came back from my mini retirement. I spent about 7 weeks out in the wilderness with my children, traveling around. We do that every year. And when I came back, I had these leftover tortillas that I bought from the grocery store. And it's been up to now, guys, since July. These tortillas still have not molded or rotted. They're just completely preserved. Just like some people say at McDonald's cheeseburger, don't even refrigerate, just put it in a jar and watch how long it takes to decompose. I look at that, that's our lifestyle design that's in front of us. This is what we're expected to pay our money on, to invest in for ourselves, for our future, and to support, with our dollars, support companies that are making this tortilla. It's an actually real thing. I'm not making an example of this. I still have it in my refrigerator. I'm just curious to see how long before they actually get hard, instead of saying stop, and when they start getting moldy, because there's no mold, there's no nothing. And we're going on, like 5 months? This is scary. So I look at, in my life, is that maybe it's time for our kind, our people who see these type of things, who don't necessarily lost into entertainment and things like that, who see a better way for the world to live in is to actually maybe start producing a lot of things in our life so we don't have to eat tortillas that don't mold for half a year, right? To start making our own tortillas. I think living outside of a major city, like maybe an hour at most, 45 minutes, 30 minutes would be ideal. That's where the land, I think, is still more affordable for us to get out, and I think that's kind of where I'm leaning towards, maybe start owning the land and start producing, where I could wake up every single day and start making my own, producing my own food, like my own chickens for meat, and maybe vegetables and rabbits and fish through aquaponics, and doing all these things that I'm experienced. Again, educating myself from years ago. Like I was telling you guys about landrace seeding and all that. Not only do I have that under my belt, I've got soil management, I have permaculture, how to build swales and divert water management, and planting trees, and aquaponics, hydroponics, aeroponics. I've been into all kinds of things, educating myself as time has been passing. Now that I have the opportunity, or if I so choose to make the opportunity for my life to say, you know what, I want to get out of the rat race, and I want to get out of the rat race for good, but I don't want to mess up and do like some people who invest without knowing what type of land would I get and all of these things, right? So what the point that I'm getting at is that if you know what you want, you start to educate yourself on how to do this, and you take the time to figure out what are all the places that can go bad, how could this thing fall apart, and let's amend those things, and let's come up with a good, solid plan, and let's design our lives the way we want them efficiently. Come up with a plan, come up with a design, and all of these things, so that we're not sitting here scrambling. And I think that we're at the throes of what's available at the grocery store. To tell you guys, I'm actually experiencing that now to a certain degree, where when a lot of my groceries I'm able to do is walk through my garden and my aisles, and it's a suspended garden, which I don't have time to get into today, but I go grocery shopping at my farm, my spin farm on land that I don't own, every single week. So I walk in there, and sometimes I don't know what I got. I got strawberries this week, I got jalapenos, I got cabbages, I got arugula, we got a mizuna, tatsoi, we got Asian greens and stuff like that, pineapple, ground cherries, and I just get this smorgasbord. I actually collected some of these ground cherries here in my truck. They're really cool. For those of you watching, this is what they look like. They're like a tomatillo family. I don't know why. I figured I'd show you guys that. My kids like to snack when I pick them up from school. But yeah, guys, that's I think where we need to go, because the more and more as these hard times progress, what I see is like we're all getting pushed from the upper and middle class to the poor. We're all getting squeezed under this pressure. We're the one footing the bill. Money is being borrowed by the rich, by the wealthy. Things are being bought up by the wealthy, and basically we're paying somebody else's bill. We're paying the taxes on it while they don't pay taxes. Sure, maybe we think it's unfair. In a way, I look at it, a lot of it is our fault for not educating ourselves and knowing about how all of these things work, how financial language and financial education is so important for all of us. But if we're not going to go that route, we need to produce the things that we need instead of voting with our dollars on food that comes from probably slave labor or just other parts of the world, unsustainable and resilient, and sitting here complaining about it and actually living, unhealthy and happy lives. But if we get over, check out a guy giving me thumbs up on my truck, and if we get over this stuff and we start, he has a Ford too. I always get that. Like this truck. So that guy right now who's just giving me a thumbs up, he was waving at me as I was doing the show, and he had a truck too. He knows that these trucks, this is a 96 F350 diesel. You could rebuild this motor for the rest of your life. That's why he was giving me a thumbs up. This is an investment, and it stacks functions. Me and my family could live out of this truck, right? In fact, we do. Like I said, we go on many retirements. We spend a few months out traveling around, living. There's a camper in the back with solar panels and everything all set up. I mean, I literally could live out of this vehicle comfortably. We got electricity, we have internet, and I'm doing the podcast. I'm stacking functions, and it's a good investment. It's not a throwaway, I guess is what I want to end this show with. Something like this vehicle that I own, free out and clear, is an investment because I can have it for the rest of my life. It's got good quality, good resale value. As the guy next to me who was waving me down, giving me a thumbs up, he knows what these things are. Whereas the new stuff that we have in life, the new trucks got computer chips and all of these kind of things that are supposed to make our lives easier. Technology is supposed to make our lives easier, and I think it's screwing everything up. Things get hacked. My bank account got hacked. In these trucks, these new trucks, if the chip goes out, the whole truck dies. Right? They're a lot more difficult to repair. You've got to get what do you call it? You've got to get a computer and a whole program to learn just to replace a spark plug. Mine's diesel, so you don't really need to. But yeah, living and owning something like this, a tank, has become very valuable. Even though this truck is like a 1996, right? It's old. It's really old. There are guys offering me $20,000. That was before. I'm thinking that it's probably up to more $30,000, $40,000 right now. That's how much people are willing to buy something like this because they know it has value. A lot of the new stuff we have going on in our lives, I think, right now doesn't hold value. It's not built very well for some weird reason or another. And I look at that, a lot of the designs and stuff in our lives, none of this, hardly any of it, holds any value. It doesn't really do anything for us. It has no return on investment, no ROI. I mean, some, I guess. But in the long run, are we happy? Are we getting the sustenance that we need? Are we destroying the earth as we extract what we need? Or are we helping? Are we doing it in a symbiotic relationship where, like the symbiotic relationships that we could have with the earthworms, where the worms are converting all of our waste products into something that we can grow these wonderful plants out of. These land-raised seeds that are impervious to disease. If we spend and focus our time on those seeds and what the health of these worms and watch how they feed each other, and as they keep multiplying to such an extent that we have so much, it has nothing to do with money, even though I'm not against money, that we need to give it away. That we need to dump the byproduct, if we dump this in the earth, would make the earth better in the area we dumped it. Instead of what we're doing now is not sustainable, it's not resilient, it's not happy, it's not clean, and it sure doesn't have a purpose, I think, in people's lives. It's a plan. It's an area we go from point A to point B, but once we get there, we have to start all over. We have to keep investing in perpetual motion that is not sustainable. So I hope I made that. I know I've rambled on a little, but I hope that finds you guys well, and you guys kind of understand about all those examples. I'm not talking, again, sometimes people lose in translation that I'm talking about just food, or I'm talking about a car, or I'm talking about worms. If we take the philosophy of learning all of those things and combining them into everything else that we do now to make sure that we have an ROI on not just money. I said I'm not against money, but a flow of the earth where it becomes perpetual, we're going to win. We're going to come out ahead, whether it's a pandemic, not a pandemic, whether the times get hard or not. As I said, these things keep working regardless of what's going on. And I think if we can find those things inside of ourselves, inside of our minds, our hearts and everything, and our community, and start to focus on those things. Take time off from all the crap that's going there. Start focusing more on the positive. We can make a change, and we can literally make a change that'll last forever. It'll be perpetual. So guys, I hope that the message found you well. I hope that helps you. That's why I'm here, and to spread the joy, the love, and the happiness, and the excitement, and the adventure of all of this. Life is an adventure. And I think if we start focusing, shifting our mindsets away from all this stuff and start looking at these like a game, how much more can I learn? How much more can I gain? When I do this, what's the repercussions, the good things that are going to happen? How can I free up more of my life? And in my case, how can I free up more time for people like you? So guys, that's the show. Like, subscribe, help me out, get the show off the ground. This is Agent Babshoff, and I'm reporting out from duty to go to work. I will talk to you guys on the next show. Thanks for watching.